Hey y'all, welcome back to the Neat Disciples. My name is Philip. This is Jeremy. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a really great topic today. We're going to talk about communication in marriage. Several episodes ago, we had some of the guys here in the shed and we talked about marriage, but we figured we'd break down a few of those areas. And I think communication is probably one of the most important things, and not even in marriage, but just in any relationship, whether it be work or family or friends. We got to be able to communicate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yes. Yes. Well communicated, Philip. Yeah. No, I agree. It's probably a foundational, uh, aspect of any relationship. Good, positive, clear, concise communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to a successful relationship, whether it's a marriage or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about a lot of that at at work, how I communicate to coworkers and my boss and things like that. You really put a lot of thought into that, especially before you shoot out an email or whatever. And I think and you had brought it up before. We don't take that home with us. Like we do that at work and we try at work, but then we get home. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore, and I can just cruise. But it's probably more important that we're communicating well in our home with our spouse, or if we're not married, our girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, significant others, because that's where you're going to spend most of your time with those folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess where I'm stuck is the more important. It's as important. I guess if we were to say, if we're going to communicate well in these three areas, work, home, and recreation.
Mm-hmm.
So which of those three do you want? If you had to choose which one is most important, then yes, probably the marriage. But it's equally as important to communicate well and clearly at work and really in any environment. But I think I know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You said that sometimes we don't take communication home with us, and that's a good point. And what I did say off camera before we started recording was, I think we take our spouses and children, if we have children, for granted that they're going to be there anyway. That we may think the stakes are higher at work. So if I don't communicate well and clearly at work, it could cost me my job, which then would cost me my income, and so on and so forth. And so we're going to see to it. We're going to take the time to train ourselves or to get in the habit of good, positive, clear communication. If we play on some kind of a team or we're involved in some kind of a team and we want to get the role in that play, or we want to start that position or whatever, but we're going to make sure that we communicate well so we can get hopefully what we want or desire. We go home, and while truly the stakes are equally as high because that's your home and your spouse and your kids, maybe we tend to take them a little bit for granted because they're always going to be there. We did the hard work to make it happen in the first place, and so we can kind of mission drift a little bit in the home, which is unfortunate, but I think it can happen because, hey, I'm going to come home. They're going to love me anyway. I love them. They're going to love me. We think the stakes aren't quite as high, but they're equally as high. Mm-hmm. And so maybe this is going to be a good reminder for those of us that maybe see it that way, or maybe just accidentally see it that way. Maybe it's not purposeful. I'm taking for granted. It just kind of happens organically over time. To maybe kick the tires and on that relationship and make sure that we are doing our due diligence to communicate well in a healthy manner at home, with our spouses and our children as well.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's dig into it. I've used this phrase a lot. When you listen to understand and not to reply. I probably tell my wife that at least once a month, and she's gonna kick me after she sees this.
Yes.
But we do have that conversation. It's like, hey, hear me out and really try to understand what I'm saying before you reply. I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
As much as I try to be a really good listener, sometimes I want to check the box and get to the next conversation. Like, okay, I understand what you're saying. Let me respond so we can kill this conversation and move to the next topic, right? But when I do that, I'm not giving her the respect that she deserves to fully hear her out, right? And vice versa too. Like when I'm trying to tell her something and she replies, she's not giving me that respect, right? So I've said that a lot. And you ask her, she'll agree with it. And I mean, and we talked about this in the episode when we had all the guys in here. Like, guys are fixers. Like, we want to fix things.
Yeah.
Like, hey, tell me real quick, let me fix it, and then we can forget about this. But women, we talked about this too. They're different. Like,
Yeah.
we're different people. So they just sometimes just want to be heard.
Right.
And I want you to fix it, but
But the problem is we hear what needs to be fixed and we stop listening at that point. Oh, that's the problem. We start thinking in our head, well, how can I fix that problem? Because we're designed and our desires that we want to fix those things. And, she's still gone on for several more minutes talking about whatever the issue is. And, she's unfortunately not been heard because we've stopped at the, oh, no, wait, I was fixing the problem over here. So now we have a bigger problem because I didn't hear a thing you said after that.
yes.
Yeah.
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 Well, so what does Scripture say about that? So for James 1 verse 19, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. It's pretty clear. And then
clear.
Proverbs, I think I did a short on this. Proverbs 18:13, to answer before listening, that is folly and shame. Just a really well put way of, you're going to get in trouble if you don't listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear, and it's not easy. I think it's a learned.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's, I guess, ironic, coincidental. I'm not sure what the word would be. Probably coincidental that this morning, actually, I was doing some premarital counseling for a couple. And always part of my premarital counseling is communication. Because I do believe over the course of, a couple decades of being in ministry, and sitting down with couples either premaritally or even doing marital counseling because they maybe have an issue popping up, and whatever the symptoms are, they might come to me and say, hey, we're not spending enough time together, or this, that, or the other thing. 100% it's communication. It's, you stop communicating, and so sometimes communication, no, we're still talking, yeah, but it's devolved to, you don't even trust each other, so you think you have an ulterior motive. So let's talk about communications anyway. So I counsel people on assertiveness and active listening, that in a healthy relationship, you ought to be able to say what needs to be said. I want more of something. I want less of something. Hey, I wish we did this. I wish we stopped that, whatever. And for this reason, and have then the person who's being spoken to then say, what I heard you say is, so it's assertiveness and active listening. So kind of what you were alluding to or implying a couple minutes ago is, hey, what I heard you say is, and then you repeat back exactly what they said. Not what you think they said, not what you think they wanted to say, not what you wanted them to say. This is what I heard you say. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to grant the wish if it's a wish, but that person knows, yeah, you heard me. Okay, you heard me. So yeah, it doesn't mean what you said matters or you get what you want, but you've been heard. And there's great, what's the word I want to say? There's a great satisfaction in knowing you've been heard.
Yes.
We want to be heard. We want to be a part of the conversation. We want to be noticed. We want to be heard. We want our opinions, our voices to matter. Sometimes it matters more than others, given the context. But so assertive. So back to the point you made, that it's a learned thing that doesn't come naturally. So so that's why I bring it up. Like, this is a habit that we need to form in our relationships: assertiveness and active listening. And until it becomes a habit, it's a lot of work, and it's good work. It's worthy work, but unless it is work.
Yeah, but just think about the fruit that comes out of that, and how much better your relationship will be having that skill, right?
No doubt.
And then, kind of on the flip side of that is what comes out of us after that, right? So speaking with gentleness and grace, so we understand what they say. Okay, how am I going to communicate it back? Okay, I heard you. And then if we disagree, how do we say that kindly rather than, just blurting out the first thing that comes to mind?
Right.
Our filter has to work because words matter.
They do.
They can tear somebody down, and we've heard the expression probably more times than we can count. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I just had this conversation with my kids last night. Like, if you see somebody's baby and it's an ugly baby, because I throw something at me if you want. There's like, ooh, man, what?
Yeah, I'm not,
Like
you're on your own on this one,
my
man.
my kid was that way too. He come out, he looked like an alien. I joke with him all the time about it. But if you think the baby's ugly, don't go, ooh, that's an ugly baby. Be like, oh man, he's got such pretty eyes. Think of something positive to say. You know, you don't have to lie and say, oh yeah, I think the baby's cute. Be like, oh, he's got nice ears or something, right? But you don't have to be mean about it, right?
His complexition is clear.
He's
That's
got
good.
He's got great complexion. Look how squishy his cheeks are, right? But
he's bald. That's cool.
right? But it's not always, you know, what we say. It's how we say it.
Yeah.
Your tone of voice is, you know, the inflection, especially when you're dealing with your spouse. Intentions are starting to mount. If you escalate, it's going to be worse because they're going to escalate and you're going to escalate, and then now we got a big fight over something silly.
That's another good point that I don't even think we thought about when we were just kind of talking about this right before we started recording, is that we even communicate non-verbally, and through body language and, you know, our eyes and, you know, and so it's a nuance. We have to be intentional. Like I even telling the couple this morning, like, I'm going to take all the fun out of being married because it's all about work, and it's worthy work. It's great work. It's good. It's rewarding, but it takes work, and takes being intentional and communicating and being on the same page with everything. And how do you get on the same page about everything? About raising kids, about your finances, about your expectations and intimacy, about where you're going to live, about work, any of that. You have to be on the same page. And the only way that you get on the same page is to be intentional in communication.
Yeah, totally agree. So a couple verses around how we speak. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Yeah, and I'm guilty of saying things just to stir up anger. And then Colossians 4:6, let your conversations always be full of grace and seasoned with salt. So fruitful.
Yeah. They hit close to home. Those verses hit close to home.
100%.
You know, I mean, I have been guilty of telling my wife, I love her dearly. She loves me. We've been married for 31 years at this point, depending on when we're watching this video, but 31 years, and it's been a great 31 years, and it's about to end. No. But, you know, kind of going back to what you said earlier, just about, you know, they want to be heard, you know, she would be telling me a story, an account of something, and I would just say, you know, you could have shortened that by. Now you laugh because you've done it too, like, you know, because we just guys aren't detail oriented. We don't need to know all the details. Just tell us the point and get to the point. Now we should be more gracious. That's why I laughed at the seasoned with salt. Like, should be more gracious in that. Like, all right, you wanted to give me all the details, okay, and I need to listen to those details. I get it, but there's just times like. What did that have to do with, you know? And so that's just one of the differences between guys and ladies, and why it's so important that we're intentional and we communicate clearly. Because if we don't, we say stupid things like that and belittle or demean or can at least be construed that way. You know, we certainly don't intend to, but we think we're being funny sometimes and we're not. Good grief, that one's kicked me in the you know what several times. Yes. So
I do laugh because I bet you there's a lot of men watching this and they're really like, oh yeah.
Finally, they're relating to me.
Yes, and it happens. I mean, again, like we want to fix a problem. We're task oriented. We're trying to check boxes, and like now I don't need to know like everything leading up to what happened. I just need to know what happened and then what we got to do about it.
That's right.
That's right. I think that's been in the last week I've had.
It's a normal thing, and it's not going to stop because, you know, the answer isn't tell me fewer details, because that's how, you know, typically that's how they're wired, and we're wired a particular way, and so we need to be gracious and understand those wirings, and we need to make it work, and that's where sacrifice and submission to one another, and just you want the betterment of the other person, and so you make those sacrifices and those compromises, and you turn off the TV when necessary, or turn it down, or whatever you need to do, you know, and you look them in the eye, or they look you in the eye, and you listen to those details, you know.
Makes a big difference.
It does,
for sure.
It does, and you know, we're trying to communicate to guys too. So guys, like, do the hard work. That's loving your wife like Christ loved the church. That's leading your household. That's, you know, that is sacrificial love, which Christ calls us to as husbands. And so It's a great application to that command, to that text, that we love our wives like Christ loved the church. There's many ways that we can do that. One is that we do listen to them, not to respond, but to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so as we know, there are going to be differences of opinion. I'm just going to put it that way. I'm not going to say, well, it could be arguments or disagreements, right? So how do we deal with that is important as well, because there's going to be things that I do. Well, I'm not saying there's going to be. There are things that I do that irritate the heck out of my wife. Uh-huh. There are things that she does that irritate me a little bit.
No.
I'm just gonna put that. but what I try not, what I've learned over the years, I've been good at a lot of things, and I'm learning how to be a good husband and father. Still learning, right? We all should be. Mm-hmm. But what I've found is the more I sit on something, the more I think about it, and the more angry I get, and the more I want to stir the pot and argue. And I think she probably has that same thing too. I think we as humans, the more we let things stew, it gets worse, right? So I think being able to, if you do have a difference, to confront that in a loving, caring way. And that goes back to listening and speaking with grace and everything, but being able to figure out, hey, we have an issue. How do we come together to fix that is ultra important.
Yeah.
In a relationship.
Yeah. This one hits pretty close to home with me because when I was younger, just throughout a variety of a few things earlier in life, I can get pretty angry pretty quickly. I'm not proud of it. And so earlier in our marriage, or even in other relationships when I was much younger, I wanted to win an argument. And so I would do or say whatever needed to be done or said to win the argument. Wouldn't think about the other person's feelings. Mm-hmm. I would just say it, and then I'd feel happy about myself that I won the argument. Well, you get married, you have 2 or 3 of those, and you realize I really hurt the person that I claim to love, mm-hmm. and I don't want to be that guy. And so that's where I had to come to Jesus Talk, and a lot of these verses are what I kind of went to, mm-hmm. Where in James, the tongue also is a fire. It's a world of evil. And so I didn't want to be evil. I didn't want to have this tongue of fire. Paul says in Ephesians 4, let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but mm-hmm. that is what edifying and building up of your brothers and sisters. He also says, don't let the sun go down in your anger. So mm-hmm. deal with it. You may need to take a cooling off period and say time out. Like right now, nothing good's going to happen if we talk right now. Let's you go for a walk, I'll go for a walk, whatever. Let's come back in an hour or half an hour, whatever, and let's address this. It's not take time out so we sweep under the rug. It's like I just need to calm down mm-hmm. because I don't want to do or say something that either of us are going to regret, nor do I want to hurt you. And so, so again, I told this couple this morning, I'm going to take all the fun out of arguing, because the goal of an argument isn't necessarily to win it. It's to, yes, maybe resolve something, but it's to do it together, and to look what we just did together. And we can overcome anything when we can even look at a conflict and say, we've overcome the conflict together. We're on the same page. We're walking away from it. Look what we did. Pat yourselves on the back and, mm-hmm. And be happy about it. So, again, it's all about intent and being on the same page. All of it.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother episode on anger, and we probably will one day. Yeah. But Ephesians 4, and I actually had that in my notes mm-hmm. too. There's a lot in Ephesians 4 that talks about
one of my favorite
anger.
chapters in the entire New Testament is Ephesians 4. Yep.
Well, now that we know you had anger issues, then that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that it's important to not. I mean, it's okay to get angry. We've talked about that before. We can get upset with. About things, it's just how we deal with that. How we deal with that.
Ephesians 4 says, "In your sin, do not anger." Paul says. So,
yep.
Hey, we're allowed to get angry. Sometimes we get angry at stupid things, and that was, I would blow things way out of proportion. Which, we're entitled to be angry. It's a normal human emotion. God gets angry, so it's a normal human emotion. But don't sin. So what we think or what we say or what we do in our anger can really be a problem.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I say call the time out before you do or think or say something stupid that is really going to do some damage that doesn't need to be done. Yeah.
That's great advice. And then also we have to be able to understand each other. And as men, it falls on us. We're the leader of the household. Under God, and how we lead is huge, right? So we don't lead by control, we lead by compassion. And there's things we do have to control as the head of our households, but we also have to understand that we're dealing with other human emotions here, right? Especially if it's our spouse. And how we lead, that's reflective on us and ultimately our marriage. And I always go back to, what are my kids seeing? How is this gonna, like, if I say this to my wife and my kids hear it, what does that teach them on how to grow up to be a leader or a spouse? I got a son and a daughter, right? So how's it going to teach him to be a godly man and a husband and a father? And how is it teaching my daughter on how she should be treated?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So as a leader, we have to take those things into consideration.
Yeah. And I think, who do we turn to as an example of that? Is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as I go back to the Ephesians chapter 5, so Ephesians is a great book. Ephesians, especially the last half, it's all good. The last half is very, very applicable to our lives. So Ephesians 5, where Paul writes, like, as husbands, we are to love our wives like Christ loved the church. And so we look to him. How do I love my wife? Okay, what does it mean like Christ loved the church? Well, what did Jesus do? Let's look to him as an example. He donned the apron of a servant, got down on his hands and knees, and he washed the feet of his disciples. That was pretty sacrificial. There's humility in that. He humbled himself. There's no dignity in that. And so he stooped to a level that normal people wouldn't do. He says, look what I'm willing to do for you. And those are the things that we ought to be willing to do for I think that's all wrapped up in the love your spouse or love your wife like Christ loved the church. Be willing to do the undignified things. Be willing to do the things that you might even think are beneath you. Nothing should be beneath us when it comes to loving our wives and loving our children, because that is our primary responsibility. That's our primary ministry is at the home. Mm-hmm. And when Paul says, love your wives like Christ loved the church, Jesus gave up everything for the church. Yep. And that's a high call. Again, it's a worthy call. But that's the call on our lives. That's what we agree to when we say, yes, mm-hmm. I take so-and-so to be my lawfully wedded wife.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and two, I mean, we all hear the scripture, husbands love your wives and women obey your husbands, and a lot of people get hung up on that.
The word submit, not obey.
Submit, obey, however you translate it.
But guys like to hear obey, like to say obey and hear obey.
But in 1 Peter 3:7, it says, in the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. She may be weaker than you are, but she is your equal partner in God's gift of new life. Treat her as you should, so your prayers will not be hindered. So, like that's putting y'all on level playing field. Right?
Absolutely,
we're partners. So we can't just focus on the one scripture that says these things. We have to look at this that says, okay, look, you're the leader in your home, but y'all are on an equal playing field, your level, right? So y'all each need to treat other with the respect that you deserve.
Yeah, it goes back to the garden, where it was not good for Adam to be alone, for man to be alone. So Adam was not put to sleep. That sounds bad, but put into a deep sleep, and and then a suitable helper, suitable mate, a partner was created, Eve. And so it wasn't she's beneath him. It was, look, we're do this, and this is the mystical one. We become one mm-hmm. in marriage, and that's that supernatural one, that we're in this together. We have different roles and responsibilities, and so I think we've kind of lost sight of some of that too, generally in society, which has caused some of our problems, I think, in our culture here in America at least. But there are certain roles and responsibilities where we are geared and wired for, particularly. Women are generally more emotional in a good way. I don't mean that in negative, but they're more nurturing, right?
Oh yeah.
Guys, we want to go out and beat things up and kill it and skin it and eat it, and bring it home to our families, right? We want to provide and be and secure. We want to be useful as guys, and ladies want security. Again, these are general statements, so please don't at me, too hard.
Right.
I get it. We're not all 100% the same, but God did design us differently and for particular roles in society. And when we are operating within those roles and we're communicating within those roles, that's where chaos goes away. That's the order that God created and desired. And disorder has been the problem since sin. And so when Jesus comes back, order is restored. And if we live according to his principles, his example, his model, his commandments, order is restored. And that's where we experience fulfilling relationships at home and elsewhere. So, all right, I rambled on.
No,
I communicated too long.
You communicated well, though.
Okay.
So the last thing that I wanted to kind of talk about within this, and we talked about listening and how we speak and, dealing with anger, but I think something else is really important is praying in our marriage. Praying, number one, for our spouses, and number two, praying with them.
No doubt.
And that's where I fall short. I don't pray with my wife nearly enough. But maybe I need to make that change, right? But I know I do pray for her in our marriage, in our lives on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
And that's important. So make sure you're in prayer for those things, and even pray with your wife, even if it's uncomfortable. It would do wonders for you. And
agreed.
I need to take that advice.
I do too. I mean, I agree with your sentiment. I pray probably for my wife much more than I pray with my wife. Don't know why, but point well taken. It's a good point.
Yeah, check that.
Yep.
So, hey, this, I mean, I think this is a great topic. It's not an easy topic because, again, like you said earlier, we're wired differently. We have a certain way of doing things as men. We all struggle with different problems, right? So, you may be struggling with a different issue that I'm struggling in my marriage, or Jeremy's struggling with in his marriage. But, one thing I can tell you, that if you center that on Christ, things will be different, right? And we discussed that when we had the group of guys in here and talked about that. It was kind of the theme that, hey, I've had failed relationships in the past. They weren't centered on Christ. And, I'm not going to say just because I didn't focus on Christ, but because I didn't focus on Christ, I did things that I shouldn't have, and said things I shouldn't have, and everything. So if we are living like Jesus lived and using him as the example in the church's example, then that will fix a lot of things.
Yeah, agreed. Just in listening to this, we might have made it sound easy when I said I was dealing with my anger stuff. So I went to those verses. But it's not just you have to just read the verses and it magically goes away. It's to read the verses and apply it, to your life, and actually consciously think when you're getting into that moment, I'm going to respond differently here because I don't want to be that guy. Why do I not want to be that guy? Because Jesus has made me different. He's changed my heart. And so I no longer want to win the argument. I want to love my wife. This needs to be dealt with. That doesn't mean we don't deal with the conflict. A decision needs to be made. So we need to work through that. But I don't need to win the argument. Or if I do win the argument, I don't need to do it in such a way to where I'm hurting or her or she's hurting me.
Right.
And so it's all about, I guess the way I put it, it's all about letting the gospel influence your relationships now. And so, how do you know that it's the gospel's taken hold, taken seed in your heart? Well, because now you actually are a different person. You're not trying to necessarily please the people around you. You're trying to please God. And we do please God when we love our spouses unconditionally, and we lead them well, and we communicate, and we deal with conflict, and we love our kids, we create an environment to bring them up to love Jesus, and set them on the path. And the proverb says you lead a child in the right way, and they will not stray from that. There's truth in that. And so I've lost my train of thought. So sometimes when I communicate too long, I lose my train of thought.
Train right off the road.
Yeah. Oh no, it's about letting the gospel influence your life. And so this is now when the fruit is evident. When what I had to do is I would read those verses back when I was still angry. I would read those verses. I'd do my best to memorize them, but I also wrote them out on a Post-it note. I stuck it on my dashboard, or my steering wheel in my car, or the mirror in my bathroom. So I was confronted with those verses and the reminder, I don't want to be that guy anymore. I want to be that guy. And so these reminders were, so if someone's cut me off and I was like, wanted to start getting angry, out on the road, I would look down and I would see those verses. Don't sin in your anger, or in the bathroom, I would start the day as I'm getting ready, looking at these verses. Don't sin in your anger. And so it's like in my mind all the time. And so when the opportunity rose up to sin in my anger, I had a chance to not to. And then it becomes muscle memory at that point. After you do it enough, like, hey, look at that. That did irritate me, but I didn't fly off the handle for no reason. I didn't call anyone a name. I don't have to apologize to anybody because I acted like a fool in my anger, or I didn't make myself look like an idiot.
Right.
Now I still can do that. Just not in anger.
We're guys, man. We're gonna do that.
I do it every time in front of the camera here. So.
Yeah, I mean, you change the habit, man. That's what you got to do. You got to figure out.
But it's letting the gospel do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, there's little hope of doing it without the power of Christ and the power of the gospel. Submit yourself to loving Jesus, and then letting the word and the power and the Spirit wash over you, and these things will begin to fall away.
Yeah.
It still takes work. We can't just sit there and just expect it to happen. It still takes work. But again, as I've said a million times already in this episode, it's worthy work. It's fulfilling work. It is worth it, because when you get through it, man, it's what Jesus intended, and it's a good thing. Yeah, it doesn't mean all the problems go away, but we're equipped now and empowered to deal with those things without, again, looking like an idiot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So if y'all have any examples of something you've done in your life, or how you've changed your communication style or whatever, we'd love to hear.
Yeah.
If you need prayer, you need any resources to help you in your marriage, definitely reach out. You can email us at theneatdisciples@gmail.com, and you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and Instagram.
There you go.
Instagram so far.
Relying on you for that stuff.
Working on some other stuff. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Love to reach out to hear any good, bad, where you might need help or prayer. So,
yeah. Hopefully this one was relatable. I think this touches most people.
Yeah. 100%. All right, y'all, we're going to move into the part of the show where we like to talk about bourbon. So if you have any issues with alcoholism or addiction, you can go ahead and turn it off right now, because we don't want you to stumble because of us.
Right.
So I want to do something a little different today. I've been asked several times over the last few weeks, like, hey, number one, what's your favorite bourbon that you have, which is super hard to answer because it depends on the mood. And number two, if you were to have just a few bourbons, like, what's most important to have in your home bar at the time? So I thought we could kind of talk through that.
Okay.
And kind of look at it from hey, here's the ones that we have. They're less expensive. They're really good. They're good mixers. What do we like to sip on if we want that elevated experience? And then what are some really hard to get or more higher end bourbons that we just want to sip on neat with the guys hanging out?
Yeah.
Right?
This is obviously going to be very subjective.
Yes.
You get two other dudes in here doing the same thing, you get totally different answers. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
That we are, I am no expert. I just know what I like. I know what I like to spend. I know what tastes good for me. And so that's going to inform my answers, which will probably inform yours as well. So,
Yeah, and whatever bourbons that fall in those categories for you, like Jeremy said, it's going to be subjective to your budget and what you like, right? Because I mean, it's
what's available.
And what's available. That's an important one, because some things are hard to get your hands on. But there's been a lot of times where we were with the guys like, oh, I really like that, or I really don't like that, and it's a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
And again, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in, right? If I'm here in the shed smoking a cigar and wanting to sip on something neat, I'm probably going to pick up one of my higher end bourbons to do that. Or if I got the guys over, then we're going to try some higher end stuff. But if we're mixing cocktails, we're going to go with the lower end stuff.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's start off with the first category. So here's a few that I like to keep on hand. Old Granddad Bottle and Bond, and it looks like I need to go to the liquor store and get some more of that.
Yep.
This is a high rye. Then we have the Michner's Bourbon, Evan Williams 1783,
which is gigantic bottle.
Gigantic bottle. Of course, Buffalo Trace. Now this is kind of hard to get depending on where you're at. Some states this is an allocated bourbon.
Yeah, that's right.
Here we get it very easily. And the last one in this category we want to share is Early Times Bottled and Bond. And $20. This is a little bit more expensive. $40.
$45, yeah.
This one's normally $20. The big bottle's about $27.
Yeah.
And then Buffalo Trace, we get it around here for $25, $26. So Out of these bourbons, yeah, I'd put any of these in a drink any day.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
Not I would. I do. This one, I actually think this is one that I included for a reason. I'd like to make, as you know, you've had them, I think, a few times at the house in my bar, smoked old fashioned. Mm-hmm. And when I first had this the first time, it wasn't smoked, but it had already a naturally smoky, kind of oaky flavor to it. You know, neat. I much prefer the Michter's American whiskey, actually. But this is, at least in my opinion, this is ideal and perfect for a smoked old fashioned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it just really enhances the smokiness of the smoke and of the bourbon, and it makes it fantastic.
Yeah, they are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point on that one. I like the Evan Williams just because it's got a good flavor. I mean, when I first tried this at the distillery, I'd never tried it before.
Nor had I. I was right there with you.
Yeah, it blew my socks off.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's how much? And
right.
And the guy's like, oh, this is a $20 bottle of bourbon.
So this is probably the one. Not this. I get the normal size bottle, not the Philip size bottle. But I go through a couple of those a month because they're it's under $20, and it makes a great old fashioned. Especially when you have people over too. You're making 3 or 4 or 5 of them at a time. To go through a bottle of $20 bourbon versus a bottle of $40 or $45 bourbon makes a big difference to my wife.
It does. It does to the pocketbook.
And it makes a big difference to me too.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I buy the big bottles, because I'm the same way. We'll be mixing 3 or 4 old fashions, and it goes pretty quick when you're doing that. So yeah, these are those kind of, I don't want to say bottom shelf bourbons, but these are the cheaper bourbons that are just really good either to sip on or to put in a mixed drink.
Yeah.
So
yeah. This one is as I said before we started recording, rare. It's not rare to find. It's rare in that it makes a fantastic old fashioned or other drink. It's a great mixer, but also it's really, really good. Just neat.
It is.
It's got a really unique taste. So I always make sure I have. I mean, I think I got like 6 or 7 bottles of it. So I always make sure that my bar has an ample supply.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. I don't have 6 or 7. I'm running out of room, but we'll talk about it on a different episode.
I can take whatever you need home with me.
No doubt. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that. You can take this empty bottle of old Granddad.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, so if we wanted to go a step up, if we want a really good sipper, really good on the rocks, and you can mix these if you want, we have the Russell's Reserve 10, the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, and the Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond.
And I did this.
And we could add the 1792 single barrel. Seeing a lot more of this on the shelf these days. Almost got my hands on a sweet wheat. They just sold it right when I got there. But these are all around $50, right?
This one here I just bought today for 53.
Yeah.
This is 42. This was about 50. That's yours. I don't remember.
I think it's around $50 for this one.
So 50, 55 and under, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are really good, neat sippers. And again, if you do want to mix like an elevated cocktail, they go well.
These two I can vouch for. This one makes my favorite old fashioned. So when I'm making it at home, I'm sure there's better ones out there. I just haven't had it yet. But right now, where I stand, this one here makes my favorite old fashioned. The single barrel 1792 makes a fantastic old fashioned as well. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I found too, like some of the higher proof ones too will make a really.
And this one we just did a blind, not a blind, but we
did a
side by side with that, and it was really good.
I know.
It was really good, neat. Yeah,
it's surprising on how good it is.
Yeah.
And again, that's up to. I've had people tell me, "Oh, I can't stand it," but I really like it.
They're wrong.
Yeah. They are wrong. It's okay to be wrong.
That's right.
So yeah, these are a little bit more of a step up, more complex, and that'll give you more flavors in those. So if you want to go with kind of a middle of the budget bourbon around that $50 range, these are really good picks. And then lastly, pull these back. I always like to have, really, kind of higher top shelf bourbons and harder to get stuff. So this is kind of, and we got a few of them that are hard to get, but these are the ones we settled on. So I'm going to start on this side because that one is here. This is the hardest one to find out of these 4, in my opinion. But Eagle Rare, $50 MSRP, and it's hard to find. But when you do find it, if you can get it around that price,
I'd say it's hard to find at $50. I think it's a little bit easier to find, but it's never $50. Yeah, unfortunately.
Some places mark it up. Luckily here we've been able to find it on the shelves every once in a while. And of course we had the pleasure of going to Buffalo Trace on a day that they were actually had it for sale. 10-year bourbon, phenomenal. It's a great, neat sipper. Yeah. I haven't put this in an old fashioned.
I can't bring myself to do either.
Yeah, I mean you can if you want.
Right.
And then the E.H. Taylor small batch. This is a bottle and bond. This is a little harder to get as well, but we've seen an influx of this in the Houston area.
Yeah, that's actually becoming a lot more readily available.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like I forget every time I pick that bottle up and take a sip of it, I'm blown away on how good it is.
It stands up pretty good.
It is just a really good bourbon.
Yeah.
Another 10 years, the Old Forester 1924. This one's really hard to get. This is around $100.
I paid $125 for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, $125. I saw it at a liquor store this past week for $220 something. A little bit out of the window of what I'm going to pay for bourbon on a markup scale, but this is a really good bourbon. I know we sat in here one night and with a bunch of the guys and did a bunch of 10 years, and this was one of the favorites. As the Michner's 10, and this is I think retail 160, 70,
something like that. I mean, I've always bought it at the distillery with another bottle. So it was like $230, $220, but it has the other bottle with it. So it's maybe 180.
180.
Yeah. 175, 180.
And if you can find it at a liquor store for that, definitely get it.
I would.
Because I saw a couple bottles this past week and it was nowhere near that price point. They were very much more expensive. But this is a really good 10-year bourbon. Highly recommend it. And I'll tell you, I just like the Michner stuff.
I agree.
Even their ryes, they just make a phenomenal product. But if you wanted to get a harder to get bourbon to put on your shelf, these are really good, 4 really good ones. Of course, there's other ones if you can get your hands on it. And again, that's going to be based on your palate, because I bought $200 bottles of bourbon that's
right.
And we've got $20 bottles of bourbon. They're like, wow, that's
really good. Yeah.
So so these are our picks, and of course we definitely have more than this. But if I was stocking a bar, just to be able to have a few bottles, this is where I would land on the ones we have. And of course you have, your Knob Creeks and your
Larcenies.
The Texas bourbons, the Still Austins are phenomenal. Penelope's making really good stuff. So
Redwood
there's just
Empire.
Redwood Empire. There's just a lot of really good bourbons out there, and it's just finding the one that you like in those price ranges and figuring out what am I going to do with it, right, and put them in your bar. So love to hear like your must-haves in your bar.
Love to hear how we're wrong.
Yeah, tell us how we're wrong. I'm sure we'll have 1 or 2 people tell us that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to bring some of that really good stuff over and let us try it to prove us wrong, we'll take you up on it.
Challenge accepted.
For sure.
Yes.
So, but yeah, hope y'all liked the episode today. Definitely like, share, follow. Yeah, you can follow on the all the social platforms I mentioned, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. Email us at theneatdisciples@gmail.com. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, everybody.